Everyone thought he was a loser weeb, but he bags a Russian baddie with his Russian-speaking skills, shocking everyone. Alya is the most sought-after girl in the school because of his beautiful looks and because she is half Russian from her father's side. She is an all-around genius with excellent grades in both studies as well as sports, and starting this year, she is also going to be the treasurer of the student council. Everyone makes way for her as she walks, when a senior blocks her path and introduces himself as Ando. He claims that he has heard a lot about her from her sister and asks her out for a date, but the cold-hearted Alya immediately rejects him in front of everybody. Ando persists and asks her for her number at least, but Alya tells him that she has no interest whatsoever in his pathetic Discord mod face, completely destroying the man's confidence. She also tells him to take out the chain as it is against the school rules before walking away, while all the students are shocked that she just destroyed the most popular guy in the school. Alya doesn't give a damn about all this, though, as she enters her classroom and sits down beside her friend Q's sleeping on his desk. She kicks the chair, waking him up as she glares at him, asking whether his pathetic ass was watching anime all night again. He tells her that anime is an art form of the gods, and she shouldn't disrespect it as it has helped several guys escape loneliness, and tells her that he had a fight on Twitter with a neckbeard about whether lolis are legal or not. She doesn't understand his yapping and turns away, but when he starts yawning, she ends up saying something in Russian, which embarrasses her. She claims that it was nothing, after which Q starts looking for his chemistry book, realizing that he forgot to bring it. Alya agrees to share her book, so he attaches their table and the class starts. In the middle, he starts sleeping again while the teacher was asking questions, so Alya jabs him with a pen, making him jump up in pain. The teacher asks whether he knows the answer, and he is forced to stand up not even knowing what the question is. He looks towards Alya, who points out towards the word copper, and he immediately blurts it out. But it's the wrong answer, after which Alya stands up and tells them the right answer. They sit down and Q asks why she is making fun of him, but she claims that he should be aware that people can lie. He screams at her for being a bad friend, but she replies with something Russian, which she claims meant stupid. Q's, however, is not satisfied, and he repeats the phrase in his mind only to realize that she called him cute, as she doesn't know that he can understand a little bit of Russian. When he was a kid, there was a Russian girl that moved in his neighborhood, so he ended up picking up phrases from her. Unbeknownst to Alya, Q's can basically understand everything she says, but knows that if he calls her out, she will die of embarrassment. A little while later, the class gets over and Q's immediately takes out his phone. Alya tells him it's not allowed, but Q's claims that it's an emergency as he has the chance to get a gift in Genshin. He looks at it before screaming happily that he got the moon goddess, after which Alya grabs his phone and looks at it to find a silver-haired woman in the game. She hands it back to him while he simps over the goddess like a total weirdo. Alya seems to be hurt as she mumbles in Russian that even she has silver hair, but when Q's asked what she said, she claims that she called him a try-hard gamer. He tells her that she is wrong as he only plays free-to-play characters, unlike true sweaty tryhards who use pay to win characters to play the game. Alya simply tells him that he will die alone if he stays a shut-in like this before moving away. During the lunch break, Q sits with his friends at a table. The bald creep with no bitches is named Maru, while the blondie is called Kyo. Maru keeps yapping about how he has never smelled a girl and will probably die alone, when suddenly they spot Alya and her group of girls in the canteen as they try and look for seats. Kyo admires the beauty of the Russian sisters, while Maru gossips about how he heard that Masha is dating someone as she keeps turning down any guy that asks her out. Q's tells Maru that he wouldn't have a chance even if he was the last guy left, while the baldy tells him to shut up and accuses him of being very dickish just because Alya talks to him. Q's turns to look at her, then tells Maru that she mostly snaps at him angrily, but Maru is a degenerate who would let girls step on him, so he doesn't mind being verbally berated. He claims that if he had a chance, he would have gone for Suo because she seems to be the most approachable, but Kyo brings him to reality, claiming that she is still out of league and has rejected even more guys than Alya or Masha. Q's turns around to see Alya and Suo walking their way when his eyes meet with Suo, who smiles at him and asks whether she can sit here. He agrees and Suo immediately takes her seat beside him while Alya sits across the table looking a bit grumpy and disappointed. Suo starts talking to Q's about their similar ramen choices and how they both think that the ramen should be made spicier, while Alya looks at her omelet and starts fuming. She asks Q's whether he and Suo know each other, and Suo replies that they have known each other since childhood as they went to preschool together and have been friends ever since. Q's asks Suo whether she is friends with Alya, but she claims that not yet, but hopefully they will become friends soon, while Alya looks down and claims that she wouldn't mind. Soon the two third-wheelers move away from the table, while Maru tells Q's to get the dub with these two and leaves. Immediately Suo shifts towards Q's, annoying Alya as she starts asking Q's whether he wants to join the council as she has offered him a position. Q's refuses, claiming that he has no interest whatsoever, but Suo persists, claiming that he will be a good fit with herself and Alya. Moreover, he also has experience being the vice president during middle school. This surprises Alya, but Q's claims that during that time, he was the VP while Suo was he president, but it was only because each president had to have a mate with them who can become the VP. Sup turns towards Alya and tells her that despite how he looks, he still knows how to get work done, but Alya seems annoyed as she drinks her cola, claiming in Russian that she already knew that and doesn't need her ugly ass to tell her. After lunch was over, Suo bids goodbye, leaving Alya and Q's alone, and Alya immediately asks whether they are close. Q's replies that they are good friends and asks why Alya looks so surprised. She claims that she never thought any girl would want to be a weeb's friend, but he points his finger at her, claiming that she is a girl and his friend. Alya is taken aback and claims that she is indeed his friend before walking away, claiming that she forgot something in the office. Later that night, Q's ends up dreaming about his childhood and the Russian girl who he would play with every single day as she taught him how to speak a little bit in Russian. She didn't know any Japanese, so Q's ended up forcing himself to learn Russian just to talk to her. He wakes up from the dream with a sad face as he realized that at this point she doesn't even remember her name. After that he didn't go to sleep, instead decided to head over for school, where he ended up cleaning everything in his classroom. By the time Alya arrived, the classroom was shining as Q's tells her that he woke up early and had nothing to do. She walks over to her desk and Q's notices that she has a stain on her socks. Alya explains that while walking, a truck ran over a puddle and splashed her, but she has extra socks so it doesn't matter. After that she looks at Q's and asks whether he really doesn't want to join the student council. Q's replies with a sigh that he indeed doesn't have any interest in the council. She looks a bit disappointed, but then she pulls out her sock and notices Q's looking away immediately. She decides to mess with him a bit and tells him to bring a spare sock from her locker. He averts his eyes and gets the sock from the locker, but Alya tells him to put it on her feet. He is shocked at that, but Alya claims that it must be a treat for a creep like him, and Q's realizes that it indeed is a treat, when suddenly Alya speaks under her breath in Russian about how it is a treat for her as well. What a diabolical story, Jesus Christ. Q's starts psychoanalyzing her behavior and thinks whether she is a perfectionist who is using Russian with him to feel a little free or just some kind of exhibitionist. Anyhow, he drops down to his knees and grabs her feet, shocking Alya, who didn't think he would do it. She starts squirming away, but he holds her feet tightly and starts sliding on the sock slowly. While pulling it up, he accidentally touches her chicken thighs, which gets him a swift kick to the face, knocking him out, while Alya Rousey gets up and scurries away. Later that day, he texts his League of Legends forum about how he might have thing for feet when he notices that Alya still seems a bit mad. She walks out, and he follows her, immediately apologizing for his actions. She turns around and tells him that it was actually her fault as she kicked him and tries to touch his neck, asking whether he is hurt. He immediately backs off embarrassed, claiming she has nothing to apologize for as she showed him a peek of the promised Neverland. Alya suddenly realizes what he is talking about while Q's wonders why he is so stupid. Even after that he bows down and thanks her for the spectacular view, which gets him a punch to the face by Ronda Rousey, knocking him down. She starts running away, calling him a creep in Russian, but he gives chase, following her while she tells him to get lost. After a while he catches up to her and offers him her favorite cola as a peace offering. She takes a sip and asks in Russian whether he wants a sip. He ends up chickening out and pretends not to understand what she said, while Alya smiles and claims in Russian that she can express her feelings in Russian, which he will never understand, while Q stands there thinking that he knows Russian very well, but decides to keep it a secret for now to see what her true feelings are. Some days pass by when one afternoon, Yuki calls onto Q's and asks him to help her out clear the council room. He reluctantly agrees as his lazy ass is not used to working out, but he meets up with her regardless, and they start chatting when suddenly Alya appears from behind some boxes, looking a bit pissed to see the closeness between Yuki and Q's. He realizes that Yuki definitely set this whole thing up to mess with him, as she knows Alya likes him. They start cleaning everything and Yuki keeps chatting with him, while Alya seemingly gets even more pissed and tells Q's to pay more attention to work. Yuki realizes that this is the perfect time, so she excuses herself and moves out, when suddenly Q's hears Alya mumble in Russian that even she wants some attention. She keeps telling him to come near her in Russian, smugly thinking that she is literally throwing herself at him while he has no idea. Meanwhile, Q's is wondering what kind of a thirsty thought talks so openly. Thankfully for him, the remaining work gets sorted out pretty quickly, and he was about to take his leave when suddenly the door opens and a tall senior enters the room, surprised to see it all so clean already. Yuki tells him that Q's helped them, so he thanks Q's and introduces himself as Ken, the president of the student council. He tells Q's that he has heard a lot about him from both Alya and Yuki, but Q's starts feeling uncomfortable and decides to leave. Ken stops him, claiming that he helped them after school so he will buy him dinner tonight. Q's politely refuses the offer, claiming that he was just helping some friends. Before he can leave though, Yuki jumps in the conversation and tells him that he should accept the gift as he will have to cook for himself at home anyways. Ken ends up making the decision for them and also invites both Yuki and Alya to join them for dinner. Later that evening, they all go down to a diner and sit down, while Ken again thanks Q's for helping them with the council work. Yuki tells him that Q's is pretty good at physical work as he gets it done pretty quickly. Moreover, he is an expert negotiator as well. Ken immediately recognizes his talent and offers him a position in the student council. Q's again politely refuses, claiming that he is done with student council work forever, as he didn't really enjoy it during middle school. Ken agrees that it is definitely a lot of work, but tells him that it has its own benefits as well. He tells Q's that being in a student council means that he has an automatic recommendation to join the best colleges in the country. But even after this, Q's shows no interest as he simply wants to watch anime and enjoy life. Unfortunately for him, Yuki wouldn't stop writing him and tells him that they can run for the next council president once again just like they did in middle school. Q's refuses this time more firmly, while Ken tells him that Yuki is going to have tough competition as Alya is also going to run for the council president. Q's had no idea about it, and he looks at her for confirmation. Alya tells him that she is indeed going to run against Yuki next year during the elections, but before they could talk any further, their food arrives. After the dinner, they all part ways as Ken head on the other direction alongside Yuki, leaving Q's to drop Alya back home. On the way back, Q's asks Alya whether she is actually going to run against Yuki, but she doesn't seem to be very eager to talk about it, and tells him that she will go on her own from here. Q's bids her goodbye and heads back home, only to find Yuki sprawled on the couch, reading a romantic novel. It turns out that Yuki is actually Q's real sister, but because she wants to be his wingman, she is pretending to be his love interest to make Alya jealous and want him more. He tells her that he doesn't need her help and heads back to sleep. The next morning, he gets woken up by his annoying sister once again, who jumps on top of his bed and tells him to get up even though it's a Sunday. This annoying brat then drags Q's all the way to a mall to have some good breakfast, but she starts forcing him to watch a movie with him. He refuses, and they head out to a nearby clothing store where he notices that Yuki's behavior is changed, and he asks what's up with that. She tells him that she noticed Alya tailing them, so she is going to stop behaving like his sister. He wonders what he should do right now, but before he could even say anything, Yuki ends up moving towards Alya and greets her warmly. Alya gets pretty embarrassed, but pretends that she just came here to shop some clothes and they met by coincidence. The bratty sis asks Alya whether she has had lunch yet, as they were just going to a restaurant, and invites Alya to join them. She then asks whether Alya likes spicy food, but poor Alya has only had mildly spicy curry and claims that she is fine with spices. Yuki tells her that they are going to a ramen place that serves pretty spicy food and invites her to join. Q's decides to come clean and tells Alya that the ramen is not just normal spicy. In fact, this restaurant makes ramen insanely spicy enough to make lava come out anyone's ass. Alya feels like Q's is trying to push her away to be alone with Yuki, so she decides to join them regardless. They head out to the ramen place, which scares the daylights out of Alya, who has never seen such a demonic-looking restaurant before. Q's tells Alya that she is making a mistake, but Alya is determined and goes in with them. Soon they order a bowl of ramen each, while Alya notices that Yuki is wearing quite boyish clothes today. Yuki decides to use this as an advantage, and tells Alya that this morning she was in bed with Q's, so she decided to borrow one of his shirts for the day. Q's ends up spitting out the water he was drinking while Alya looks at him darkly. He tries to explain himself, claiming that she just ended up jumping on his bed while he was sleeping, but Alya doesn't buy it even for a second. Thankfully, the ramen bowl arrives just in the nick of time, which shocks Alya completely as she has never seen something as red and hot as this bowl. Yuki and Q's seem pretty fine with it as Yuki tells them all to dig in before the noodles get soggy. Alya decides that she can't be left behind, so she immediately takes out the chopsticks and cools the noodles down a little bit before gulping them down. Immediately the spice hits her, but she pretends to be completely fine. Q's and Yuki also start eating and don't find the spice too much as they are used to it. But Q's ends up hearing Alya mumbling in Russian about how insanely hot it is, and he gets worried, so he asks her not to eat it, as they can get something else for her. Alya tells him that she likes the heat a lot, while Q's can literally see her tearing up and asking for help in Russian. Before he can say anything again, Yuki asks Alya about what she thinks of this dish, and when Alya says that she likes it, Yuki messes with her even more and gives her hot sauce to add in her ramen to make it taste even hotter. Q's tells Alya not to do it, but she is not going to lose this battle, so she puts a small amount of sauce in her noodles and tries it once again. This time she ends up screaming loudly, unable to control herself, and runs out of the restaurant. Q's follows her and finds her alone in a park and asks whether she is okay. Alya replies that she is fine, but Q's asks her whether she wants some ice cream and she immediately agrees. He gets her a triple scoop, which she likes much more than the hellish ramen. But while she was eating, Q's again asks her why she wants to become the council president. This makes her mood sour quickly as she tells him that she just wants to try. He asks whether she has a partner, but she replies that she doesn't, claiming that she has no need for a partner and can do it all herself. He tells her that it doesn't work that way as she needs to have someone to run for vice president with her. She replies that she will find a random person and put their name down in the register and it should be fine. But under her breath, she mumbles in Russian that she would want him to be her partner. She finishes up her ice cream and asks Q's whether he has any plans, as she wants him to help her shop for some clothes. Q's agrees to help her, claiming that they are friends, which surprises her a little, as she wonders whether he is feeling pity for her because he thinks she doesn't stand a chance against Yuki. She angrily walks into the changing room, determined to blow his mind with her fashion sense, but gets cold feet thinking what if he doesn't react at all. She still comes out of the room, and to her surprise, the moment Q's sees her, he immediately compliments her, saying that the dress is making her look even prettier than she normally is. This blows her mind as she silently closes the curtains and starts panicking, while on the other side, even Q's starts feeling embarrassed of the cringy lines he just spoke. Alya decides to keep it going, so she starts changing her dresses one by one, giving a full-on fashion show to Q's, who compliments each and every dress on her, which makes her feel even better. She finally decides to try something a little more revealing and opens the curtains to pose, only to see that Yuki has also arrived. She quietly backs off and shuts the curtains before feeling embarrassed and wanting to crawl into a hole. Later that evening they head back together in the train, but Alya is still too fried to talk. Finally, Yuki and Q's station comes, so they bid her goodbye and get off the train. Alya starts cussing herself for wearing something so skimpy, as now Q's will think she is a skank, when suddenly she realizes that both of them got off onto the same station, as she decides whether to spy on them or not. That night, Alya returns back home looking a little down, but she is immediately pounced on by her own sister, who hugs her and asks how her day was. Alya very lazily replies that it was fine before moving into her room. Masha, however, is not fooled so easily and asks Alya whether something happened because she isn't acting like her usual self. Alya takes a deep breath and claims that she just came back after meeting Q's and his childhood friend. Masha immediately starts smiling as she realizes that this is about a boy and asks Alya whether she likes him. Alya immediately defends herself by saying that she has no such feelings of him and claims that they are only friends and nothing else. Masha starts laughing and asks how did this guy manage to steal her heart, considering she never liked being friends with anyone who was a lazy slacker and she always wanted her friends to be perfectionist. She realizes that Masha is right, as 6 years ago when she was still in Russia. They ended up getting a group project about learning the ins and outs of the local businesses. She eagerly divided group works amongst her friends and rigorously planned everything out as she wanted their report to be the best in the class. She followed the schedule perfectly and collected data on several businesses all alone on Sunday, but when she went back to school on Monday, she found out that none of her friends have even started thinking about it. She gets worked up and tells them that the report will take a lot of time to write, but her friends seem unconcerned, claiming that they have a full week to work on it. Suddenly, the blondie notices her work notebook and picks it up, claiming that Alya has literally written a whole essay already. They tell her to chill out as this is just a school assignment, but Alya is one of those perfectionists who got no chill, so she tells them to take this seriously. This results in her getting into a major argument with the blondie who tells her to do it all alone if she wants to be such a perfectionist and leaves. Later that evening, Alya stays over late and keeps writing the report and continues to do so every single day till finally the results of the reports is unveiled. A different group ends up winning because their report was more cohesive, while Alya holds back her tears clutching her group work that she did all alone. That day, while walking back home with tears glistening on her cheeks, she decides that from now on she will never depend on anybody because they will always disappoint her no matter what. After that, she ended up qualifying a very difficult examination and got transferred to Japan, where the first day, she ended giving a speech at the ceremony, which immediately made her a favorite. After the assembly, when the class was about to start, she noticed Q's for the first time, sleeping on his desk with no care in the world. She wakes her up, claiming that the class is about to start, and he groggily tells her that her speech was phenomenal. She introduces herself very cordially as she expected everyone at this super prestigious school to be perfectionists like her. Slowly, the facade wears down as she notices that most students here are slackers as well, and most of all Q's was the biggest slacker, never bringing the correct books, always behind in physical education, and literally sleeping through the entire math class. Soon she starts going back in her shell, and not talking to others because they were disappointing her once again. Soon the seasons change and the school festival arrives. They all divide duties and start working on it. But even after being behind in all aspects, the students are very chill about it and go back home while Alya works overtime sewing the banner as she felt all alone once again. She hurts herself once again and puts on a band-aid when suddenly the door flings open and Q's enters the room. Alya is surprised to see him after the school is over, but he claims that she shouldn't overwork and go back home. Alya at this point is pretty prickly and tells him to mind his own business as she has a lot of work to do, but he tells her not to worry as he has sorted everything out. He used some connections to get permissions to stay overnight in the school. He also made some friends in the handicraft club and convinced them to help with the festival work as well, so now there are a lot of people who can help. He tells her to relax and go back home, but her feelings finally end up coming out as she tears up and claims that she can't relax because she wants to put a really good festival which people will genuinely enjoy. And she won't be satisfied with any shabby, and she will not compromise on the quality of work no matter what. He tells her that she is putting all her efforts in the wrong places. He claims that she is putting all her efforts into doing everything alone, but if she was smarter, she would have focused all her attention on convincing everyone else to work together, which would have lowered the load on her as well as involve all the students. She stands up and leaves the room while wondering what the hell is that guy's problem. The next day, however, is a total shift from what she was dealing with as Q's somehow motivated everyone to do their best for the festival, and they started coming up with hundreds of ideas for attractions. They started staying late in the school having fun and working together, and slowly Alya started opening up to her classmates again. The day of festival finally comes, and it turns out to be a total hit as their attraction ends up winning the Best Attraction in the School award by a large margin. The festival finally ends with a student dance, where Alya finds Q's sitting all alone. He asks why she is not dancing as everyone and their mothers would want to dance with her, but she claims that she doesn't want to dance right now because every boy keeps bothering her about it. Q's laughs and tells her that because of her attitude, everyone has started calling her the Ice Princess, but Alya doesn't seem thrilled about it. She claims that she doesn't like the fact that they call her a princess because it makes her feel like she was born with everything even though she has worked very hard for everything she has achieved till now. Q's smiled and tells her that he won't call her that name then. Alya then turns to him and apologizes for lashing at him the other day and asks whether she could do anything for him to show her gratitude. Q's tells her that she doesn't need to do all that as she was still the person who put the most effort, but Alya claims that she needs to repay him for his kindness. Suddenly, a bunch of boys appear behind her and the incels start bothering her again for a dance, pressuring her even though she didn't want to. Q's decides to take matters into his own hands and takes her arm before running into the grounds, asking Alya for a dance as her thanks. Finally, we return back to the present where Masha claims that it sounds like the start to a beautiful love story. But Alya again claims that he is just a friend because he is capable and can get things done. But Masha is not fooled as she smiles at her. The next morning, Q's goes to the students' council to cover for Yuki as she didn't come that day. There he ends up meeting with Masha, who tells Q's that she has heard a lot about him and wanted some help with shopping for supplies. He agrees, and she immediately thanks him and grabs his hands. Suddenly, she feels a familiar feeling as if she has met him before and asks him for his food name. Q's tells him her full name, and immediately she realizes something, but keeps her mouth shut and tells him in Russian that they should get moving. They start walking and enter a shopping mall where Masha completely forgets why she was here and starts looking at different stuffed toys to buy for the student council. She buys a cat plushie and also starts looking a lion wearing some glasses for the council president. But Q's tells her that he won't be a big fan. They start walking back when she enters a tea shop to try some of their tea. And while she was tasting the different types of brewing methods, Q's suddenly remembers how his parents separated when he was young, and he decided to stay with his dad. But Yuki ended up choosing their mom, forcing the siblings to be separated from each other. Suddenly, he snaps back to reality only to find Masha in front of him looking worried. She tells him that he looks pained and immediately hugs him while stroking his hair. This completely shocks him as he feels a wave of nostalgia come over him as he wonders why this feels so familiar and relaxing. His session quickly gets over though because he gets burned by the hot teacup while still wondering why Masha's touch reminds him of his childhood. Later that day, they walk back over to the student council room where the president immediately notices the huge toy in Masha's arms. He tells her that student council shouldn't be a place to put soft toys, but Masha doesn't seem to care about it and keeps telling him that she wanted to get him a lion. The president walks up to the shopping bags, scared what else did Masha buy, but thankfully the remaining things were ordinary school supplies, which brings him some relief. He thanks Q's for helping them buy the supplies as he doesn't trust Masha to shop alone. And Q's can totally understand it as he knows Masha would have made the council room a total theme park if left alone. The president again tells Q's that he should reconsider his decision to join the student council as they need capable people like him. And Masha seems to be in agreement, as she claims that he should at least join them on paper. Q's asks why are they so hell-bent on making him join the council. And the president replies that he thinks Q's has a special talent with sorting things out, which is very important for a student council. He claims that Q's was an excellent vice president during his junior school, and Q's replies that while working on that position, he realized that there were no real ambitions or goals of his that he would be able to achieve if he continued being at that position, so it doesn't make sense for him. The president tells him that goals don't need to be 100% aligned with the goal of working at full efficiency. He claims that he joined the student council not because he wanted to transform the school for the better, but because he wanted to win the heart of the girl he liked. He whips out his phone and shows Q's the picture of a fat incel, looking very insecure. At first Q's doesn't identify the fatty, but Ken claims that it is none other than him 2 years ago. Q's is shocked at the incredible glow-up transformation, while Ken tells him that 2 years ago, he was a loser with bad grades and no talent in any sports. But then he fell in love with a beautiful girl named Sarah, the vice president, but she was way too out of his league, so he decided to better himself in order to become a viable match as a boyfriend for a girl like Sarah. Becoming the council president was just a step in achieving that dream, so his reasoning to join the council was very selfish. Masha joins in the conversation and tells Q's that even she joined just because she was friends with Sasha and wanted to talk to her more, claiming that everyone who joins the council has their own selfish reasons, and that's completely fine. This seems to change Q's mind a little while Ken tells him that it's perfectly fine for him to join the council, even if his sole goal is to help someone become the president. Q's looks at a smiling Ken and asks him for some time to think upon it. He then realizes that Alya hasn't arrived yet, but Ken tells him that she probably will get late today as she has gone out to mediate a fight between the soccer and the baseball team, as both want to use the field. Q's immediately leaves the council room as he wonders whether he should check upon Alya to make sure she is doing fine. Meanwhile, Alya is not doing very fine as both the soccer and the baseball teams are at each other's throats as they hurl insult at each other like a Call of Duty lobby, when Alya tells them to talk politely. Alya tries to ask one of them to use a smaller field by the river, but none of the teams are willing to go there as they both start arguing again, while ignoring poor Alya's voice. She realizes that she always decided to work alone, and because of that she has no idea how to deal with people and make them listen to her. Tears start rolling down her cheeks as she wonders whether she is fit to be in the student council. Meanwhile, Q's reaches the area and overhears the heated discussion while Alya failed to mediate them. Q's decides that it is good experience for her and was about to leave, when he hears her call out for help in Russian, which only he understood. He decides to intervene in the middle and introduces himself to them as the student council member in charge of the general affairs. Alya seems surprised, but relieved to see him as he quickly takes control of the situation and claims that because the baseball team has fewer members, they will move to the smaller Riverside field, but in return, the soccer team members will help the baseball team move all their equipment. At first, both the teams seemed uncertain about this compromise, but the managers of the soccer team speak up, volunteering to help the baseball team move, and seeing a couple of beauties willing to help them out soon softened the baseball team as well, and they agreed to the compromise. Later that evening, both Q's and Alya start walking back, while Q's apologizes for putting his nose in between her matters. She claims that she likes his nose between her juicy matters and asks whether he knew the managers would decide to help the baseball team. Q's smiles and claims that the captain of the baseball team is currently dating the manager of the football team, and that's why he wasn't saying too much, as he wanted to help his girlfriend. Meanwhile, the manager was confused what to do, since she knew soccer team's demands were too much. He claims that he simply gave them a middle way out, which he knew both the baseball captain and the manager would agree to, and the plan worked. Alya looks at him impressed that he thought and noticed these many things when they run into Ken, who asks whether everything got sorted out. Q's immediately realizes that Ken planned all of this to begin with as he asks Q's for his decision about the council. Q's takes a deep breath and tells him that he is ready to join the student council, which shocks Alya, while Ken tells him to come to the council immediately to get his joining form. Later that night, when they start walking back, Alya asks Q's whether he is joining the council to help Yuki become the new president, and Q's asks what will she do if he does decide to help her. Yuki takes a deep breath and tells him that she won't back down and fight against him to become the new president, which makes Q's smile, and he tells her that he has decided to help her become the new president and not Yuki. This catches Alya off guard, while Q's promises that he will help her become the president of the council, no matter what, and offers her his hand. Alya wipes off her tears and takes his hand before smiling at him, which suddenly makes his heart feel something which he hasn't felt since the time he met that blonde girl in his childhood. Suddenly Alya twists his hand, asking whether he was thinking about some other girl right now, making Q's sweat, who wonders what to say in this situation. She asks him whether he was thinking about Yuki, and he immediately denies, but she thinks he is lying and delivers a tight slap, knocking him to the floor. She then walks up to him and helps him up back to his feet before they start walking back together. On the way, they talk about everyday life, making jokes and having fun, when they finally reach Alya's apartments, and the time to say goodbye comes. Alya asks whether his cheek is still aching, but he claims that it's just stinging a little, but he should be fine, as he has experience with getting pepper sprayed by girls. Alya decides to relieve some of the pain as she walks up to him and plants a light kiss on his cheeks, making him blush as she walks away, claiming that it was just a friendly kiss. Q's can't believe what just happened, as he stands there blankly, wondering why this Russian girl is playing with his heart like this. If you liked this video, you would love the story about this magicless loser born in a world filled with magic, who decides to take up a sword instead to climb his way to become the strongest, so his crush would notice him.